Learning Japanese writing. Comma rules and usage. One thing that makes it difficult to understand when reading and writing Japanese is its usage of ten. In this video, I will show you how to improve your Japanese writing with only 3 rules for commas. Japanese punctuation rules are not much taught in detail in schools. Therefore, even Japanese people often have trouble with commas. If you use commas wherever you want to breathe, it can sometimes be misinterpreted. It was in 1906, Meiji 39th year, that the usage of punctuation marks was first publicly shown. It is a punctuation method draft created by the Ministry of Education as a standard for national textbooks. Have you seen old Japanese writings with no punctuation marks at all? Punctuation is a new system for Japanese writing in a way. Knowing how to use a comma will make your Japanese writing easier to understand. Now let's talk about a comma. A comma is a symbol used in a sentence to indicate a break in a sentence or to make a sentence easier to read. If you can use the comma correctly, you can make the sentence easier to read. However, it is not recommended to use too many commas in one sentence. Try to use only the minimum commas required. As a guide, it's a good idea to use 1 or 2 commas per sentence. It is said that the maximum number of characters in one sentence should be about 50 characters. By the way, the ten, toten, and the maru, kuten, are collectively called the punctuation mark, kutoten. In addition, nakaguro, nakaten, nakapotsu, kuromaru, and question mark and exclamation mark are also included in the punctuation marks. Please note, question mark and exclamation mark are not used in official documents. They don't seem to be used in Japanese textbook taught in elementary schools either. For vertical writing, imagine that one square is divided into 4 small squares. The place you write a comma or period is in the square on the upper right. When writing horizontally, write in the lower left corner of the square. Usually for a period, draw a circle from the bottom clockwise. Now the rules are here. Rule 1. When there are 2 or more long modifiers, put a comma at the boundary. Without a comma, 喉越しじゅわっと潤い感広がる子供も舐めやすい炭酸タブレット。With a comma, 喉越しじゅわっと潤い感広がる子供も舐めやすい炭酸タブレット。It means a carbonated tablet that is easily to lick also for children. That spreads the feeling of moisture going down through the throat as if it is making a sound of jwat. Without a comma, マスクの着用と手指消毒を徹底してソーシャルディスタンスを少なくとも1メートルとって列にお並びください。With a comma, マスクの着用と手指消毒を徹底してソーシャルディスタンスを少なくとも1メートルとって列にお並びください。It means please wear a face mask and disinfect your hands thoroughly. Take a social distance of 1 meter at least and line up in a line. Rule 2. Put a comma when the word order is reversed. Word order principle. Arrange in long phrase close order. Without a comma, 他の猫科の動物にはあまり見られない社会性をライオンは持っている。With a comma, ライオンは他の猫科の動物にはあまり見られない社会性を持っている。Lions have a sociality that is rarely found in other felines. Rule 3. Depending on the writer's thoughts, a comma is put where the writer thinks it would be easier to read. 1. After a conjunction. Without a comma. しかし上司は首を縦に振らなかった。With a comma. しかし上司は首を縦に振らなかった。But the boss opposed. Literally, but the boss didn't shake his head for vertically. Without a comma. それから私は空を見上げた。With a comma. それから私は空を見上げた。And then I looked up at the sky. 2. After the postpositional particles of paradox, condition, and assumption. Without a comma. 明日の午前中ならお伺いできます。With a comma. 明日の午前中ならお伺いできます。I can visit you if it's tomorrow morning. 3. After a long subject. Without a comma. 昨日1時間かかって解けた問題が試験に出題された。With a comma. 昨日1時間かかって解けた問題が試験に出題された。The questions that took 1 hour to solve yesterday were given to the exam. 4. When you want to prevent misinterpretation, when you want to clarify the wording. Without a comma. 太郎は大きな声で笑いながら涙を浮かべている次郎を見た。With a comma. 太郎は大きな声で笑いながら涙を浮かべている次郎を見た。太郎 saw 次郎 laughing loudly and tearing. 次郎 was laughing loudly. Or 太郎は大きな声で笑いながら涙を浮かべている次郎を見た。太郎 who was laughing loudly saw 次郎 tearing. 太郎 was laughing loudly. Without a comma. 先生は名前を書いて椅子に座っている生徒を紹介した。With a comma. 先生は名前を書いて椅子に座っている生徒を紹介した。The teacher wrote his name and introduced the student sitting in the chair. The teacher wrote his name. Or 先生は名前を書いて椅子に座っている生徒を紹介した。The teacher introduced the student sitting in the chair who wrote his name. The student wrote his name. 5. After one's lines, responses, and exclamations. Without a comma. あれ財布を落としたかもと妹が叫んだ。With a comma. あれ財布を落としたかもと妹が叫んだ。Oh, I may have dropped my wallet, exclaimed my younger sister. Without a comma. ああ、なんてきれいな虹なんだろう。With a comma. ああ、なんてきれいな虹なんだろう。ああ、what a beautiful rainbow. 6. When ひらがな、カタカナ and 漢字 continue to be difficult to read. Without a comma. この施設内での飲食は原則禁止となっております。With a comma. この施設内での飲食は原則禁止となっております。Eating and drinking in this facility is prohibited in principle. Without a comma, 馬またはハイエナ。With a comma, 馬またはハイエナ。or 馬またはハイエナ。Please don't use a comma only before the latter word. 馬またはハイエナ。 horse or hyena. Without a comma, モッツァレラチーズ、ゴーダチーズ、パルメザンチーズ。With a comma, モッツァレラチーズ、ゴーダチーズ、パルメザンチーズ。Lastly, if you use 3 or more commas in a long sentence, I recommend you to separate it in multiple sentences. Let's double check 3 rules. Rule 1. When there are 2 or more long modifiers, put a comma at the boundary. Rule 2. Put a comma when the word order is reversed. Rule 3. Depending on the writer's thoughts, a comma is put where the writer thinks it would be easier to read. It's complicated, but the rules for commas seem to be useful. ややこしいけど、コンマのルールって役に立ちそうですね。See you then. じゃあ、またね。Thank you for joining me.